Hello, welcome to another video. Today I'm bringing you my December wrap-up, and it feels really bizarre to be bringing you a wrap-up sort of on time. I'm actually filming this before December's over. I'm filming this on the 30th of December, but I know for a fact that tomorrow I'm not going to read a whole nother book, so we're going with it today. Obviously throughout December I was participating in the Magical Readathon Winter Edition that Book Roast G has been hosting, and it has been fantastic. The amount of work that she has put into that and how incredibly thorough and thought through, and like the amount of work that clearly has taken her is incredible, but she's incredible and we all know that, so that's not new. But G, thank you for once again putting on a fantastic readathon that tons of people have enjoyed, myself included. There is still one prompt kind of ongoing that I haven't fulfilled yet, but that's because I only found out what it was yesterday, and I'm not going to finish that book before the end of December, so ignoring that. Otherwise, I had a fairly successful reading month in terms of the Magical Readathon. In terms of TBR Pursuit though, no. There were 3 books on TBR Pursuit that I did not read. One of those, however, is the one that I'm kind of carrying over, which is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. The other 2 that I did not read, one was American Gods, but that was very obvious from the outset. I knew I had a busy month and that book has intimidated me for a long time, so back onto the TBR it goes. And the second one was The Devouring Grey by Christine Herman, I think. I did start listening to the audiobook for that, but only got like 3 chapters into it and didn't get any further. I don't know if I'm going to be marking that as a DNF or if I might give it a go another time. But the writing style wasn't very me. I didn't feel too intrigued by that, so we'll see. I gave it a shot though and just didn't fancy continuing it at this time. However, let's move into the books that I did read and did finish and loved. The first book that I read in the month of December was Crownbreaker by Sebastien de Castell. This is the 6th and final book in the Spellslinger series, which is a series following Kellen, who in our first book is a mage about to take his mage's trial. However, a slight problem is that all of his magic has disappeared. In swaggers Ferius Parfait, who might have a few tricks up her sleeve to help him out. I cannot tell you any more from that series because spoilers, if you haven't read them, I so wholeheartedly recommend that you do. These are some of my favourites. This series, I think, is sitting at being my 2nd favourite series ever. Sebastien de Castell being my 2nd favourite author ever. Like, I've loved everything I've read from him, and this is no exception, and a fantastic conclusion to this series. I absolutely adored it. However, I cannot really speak to you about it because it's the final one, but everything I've ever said about Sebastien de Castell's writing stands. It's sarcastic, it's witty, it's funny, it's heartwarming, it's heartbreaking, it's everything I want. And I loved it. Like, the politics, the action, the twists and turns, the relationships, the betrayals, like, everything you want is in this book. But you might want to start with the rest of the series before you dive straight into this one. But yeah, 5 stars goes without saying at this point. Anything from this series I've just absolutely adored, and I'm devastated that it's over. But it is, and I'm really happy to have completed the series. I said I didn't want to be going into 2020 with this one open, and I have finished it. I am gutted, but at least I still have more Sebastien de Castell to read, at least, so I'm not going to be going completely like cold turkey on his writing. The next book that I read in December actually wasn't on TBR Pursuit, and it's a decent sized book, so Call Down the Hawk by Maggie Stiefvater. This was because a book with an orange cover came up on the Magical Readathon for me, and it was the only book I could find with an orange cover, and G had actually just sent it to me as well from my wish list, like, girl. and it is of course the first book in the Dreamers trilogy, which is a continuation from the Raven cycle, which follows Ronan and another dreamer, Jordan, and a hunter called Carmen, and all sorts of magical mayhem and mischief that goes on here. Maggie's writing is so whimsical and atmospheric. Like, everything that I loved about the Raven cycle, I loved about this as well, and this was one that I did find myself thinking about a lot afterwards. Like, I couldn't get it out of my mind, and I'm so desperate for the sequel to this now. I was worried that this would be a book that would sit on my shelf for a really long time and I wouldn't get to, because of the anticipation for it. Like, I had been so excited about it because the Raven cycle is one of my favourite things ever, but I read it the month that I got it and absolutely adored it. So this, as I say, follows Ronan. It doesn't follow the other characters so much as it is just more about Ronan and more to do with his dreaming and the world that his father was wrapped up in and the possibilities of other dreamers, and of course a strange, mystical, maybe slightly villainous character, and so many questions and so much confusion and drama, and yeah. It's really difficult to describe a Maggie Stiefvater book, but if you liked the Raven cycle, read it. Just read it. I love this one, and I gave this one 4 stars. The only reason for the 4-star rating on that is that for the first like half of it, I think I was more confused than I would have wanted to be, but that definitely does even out later on, and the questions I had were answered. I just felt too confused for how far I was through the book, but still absolutely adored it. I then read Giant Days Volume 8. This is a series that I've kind of been on and off reading for a while. It's handy when a prompt like read a graphic novel or a comic comes up in a readathon, which is exactly why I read this, because I got the prompt to read a comic or a graphic novel for the Magical Readathon. I find it very difficult to recall what happens in Giant Days because it's very episodic. Like, each volume is just a different aspect of their life, because it is very much a slice of life contemporary comic series, follows 3 girls going through university, but it kind of all blends into one story at this point because it is just episodic. It's like saying, can you describe what happens in Friends Series 3 Episode 4? No. But can you describe what happens in Friends? Sure. Difficult. They do all blend together at this point, but it's a very non-committal, fun, light-hearted story, very quick to read, easy to get through. Just a bit of fun. I think I gave it 3 stars because it didn't feel like anything special, just a fun, light-hearted, flick-through sort of read. The next book I read was The Battle for Perfect by Helena Duggan. This is the 3rd book in the Perfect trilogy, so the first one is A Place Called Perfect, the second one is The Trouble with Perfect, and then of course The Battle for Perfect. So this series follows Violet Brown, whose family moved to a town called Perfect. Her father is going to run an opticians there, but everything in Perfect may not be as perfect as you would think. Everything's a bit bizarre. Everyone wears these weird glasses and it's all a bit strange, and Violet notices these strange goings on, and of course, as with most middle grades, the kids work out that there's something dodgy going on and then have to save the day. This is the 3rd book in the series, so this is the 3rd time that something dodgy has happened in Perfect, but I loved it. This series is so much fun. I love Violet as a character, and she befriends a character called Boy, who is also just fantastic. Their friendship is so great, and yeah, it's just an action-packed story. It's got that sort of creepy vibe. It definitely didn't feel as creepy in this one, despite the fact that there were zombies. It didn't feel as, like, atmospherically creepy as the first one did, but you're already attached to these characters. Even, like, the side characters and the people that live in the town, like, you kind of get to know them as characters as well, which is really interesting because normally your side characters are completely forgotten, but they definitely all have personalities, and I love that about this. And you're really rooting for them because you've grown to love everyone in this town. I enjoyed this a lot. I gave this 4 stars, and it was a great conclusion to the story. The ending was so, like, warm. I loved it. So yeah, great conclusion. And I recommend this series if you want like a sort of creepy, action-packed middle grade with dodgy characters and a few zombies here and there. I recommend. I then read Skyward Volume 1. This was gifted to me for Christmas and I got on it straight away, so thanks to Bev for this one. This is about a zero-gravity world. I feel like I've spoken about this one fairly recently because I spoke about it in a recent vlog, my Christmas haul, and now, so sorry for the repetition. This is about a zero-gravity world. So it was the normal world as we know it, and then one day, boom, the gravity is switched off. And the story then skips 20 years in the future and we get to see how civilization has changed, how people's life has changed, how the world has changed. The seemingly normal things that you would just expect, how they are impacted by this zero gravity, and our main character is very used to this because she's never known the world in any different way. Her father, on the other hand, experienced what they call G-Day, where the gravity was switched off, and lives his life very differently. So you get to see the differences between them, and then our main character gets herself wrapped up in something that she probably shouldn't have done, and the shit hits the fan, which, you know, in a zero-gravity world is far more likely to happen. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. The world was really fascinating. I liked our characters. I liked seeing how the zero-gravity worked in the world. And yeah, really interested to read Volume 2 at some point. I gave this one 4 stars and I would recommend. And then finally, the last book that I read in the month of December, my last read of 2019, was a fantastic one with Nevermore, The Trials of Morrigan Crow by Jessica Townsend. This was on my 5-star predictions list. I knew I was gonna love this. Everyone knew I was gonna love this. I love middle grade, and everyone who loves middle grade has loved this. Even those people who have not loved middle grade as much have still loved this because it's fantastic. I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. As I predicted, I had the best time. This was so quick to read. Like, I felt like I was absolutely flying through it. I think I read it in 3 days, maybe? But yeah, absolutely adored this. So this book follows Morrigan Crow, who is a cursed child. She's cursed to have the worst luck. Everything around her goes wrong. Everything that goes wrong that she wasn't around is blamed on her because she is cursed. She is bad news. She is trouble. Because she is cursed, and that curse means that she is doomed to die on her 11th birthday. On the eve of her 11th birthday, a mysterious man called Jupiter North sweeps in and whisks her away to a place called Nevermore, where she is set to take some trials to determine her fate. Adored this. Morrigan, as a character, is just so my jam. I loved her. She was sassy, she was sarcastic, she was quick-witted, she was fun, she was courageous, but she was also very real as well, and oh, I just loved her. I felt sorry for her through so much of this because you just want to like boost her, like it's okay. Jupiter North as a character as well is just so like eccentric, like wild. I loved him, and the plot as a whole, the trials that Morrigan goes on and all the twists and turns throughout it, adored it. I just adored it. A lot of people have said that this has been compared to Harry Potter, and I really don't see that unless it's just the pure happiness, fun, magical enjoyment. In that case, then okay. But yeah, I absolutely adored this. It deserves that 5-star rating that I predicted, and I'm so happy to have this as my final read of 2019 because it was such a good time. So yeah, I'm gutted I didn't get to it sooner because I definitely should have, but I'm so happy that I read it now, and I'm really excited to get to the sequel, which I have heard is even better, and I think the 3rd book comes out in 2020 as well, so maybe I can read the sequel in time for that. Who knows? But yeah, absolutely adored this. If you, like me, have not got to this yet, you should, but I'm probably not the first person to tell you that. And there we have it. There is my December reading, so 4 books and 2 graphic novels, so I still hit that 6 mark, which I am aiming for each month, even if they weren't the 6 that were on TBR Pursuit. Oops. But I had a great reading month. The quality of what I was reading, loved it. So everything was really fun. I enjoyed what I was reading, except that little bit of The Devouring Grey that I read, which is why I didn't carry on with it, because I had so many other things that I was excited to be reading. So yeah, one cracking reading month to finish off 2019. Finishing the year on a 5-star read, and I've had many of those this year. I don't know precisely how many at this point. I think it could be 24 that I'm finishing the year on, which is wild considering last year I had 8. But I will sort out that statistic for my 2019 in review video, which may be up, may not be up, should be coming soon if it's not already up. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna stop rambling. If you want to chat to me about any of the books that I've read this month, please do. I would love to talk to you about them because I love them. And yeah, I hope you also had a great reading month to end your 2019. I hope you have smashed your 2019 goals, and fingers crossed for a great reading year in 2020. Thank you for watching, I hope you have enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Bye!